Welcome to NFL Season Recaps, where we dive deep into the most fascinating chapters of professional football history. If you enjoy falling asleep to the gentle rhythm of football history, consider subscribing to NFL Season Recaps and hitting that notification bell. We upload new sleep-friendly football stories every week, designed specifically to help you drift off while learning about the game's most incredible moments and legendary performances. This is the tale of labor, strife, and resolution, of records shattered and dreams realized, of a season that began in uncertainty and ended with one of the most improbable championship runs ever witnessed. So close your eyes if you like. Let the words wash over you, like the gentle rhythm of autumn afternoons and winter nights. There is no rush. There is only the story, unfolding slowly, like the perfect spiral of a 40-yard touchdown pass. This is the 2011 NFL season, and it begins, as all great seasons do, in the darkness before the dawn. This is the story of the 2011 season. It is a season that begins with uncertainty and ends with triumph, a season of labor, strife, and resolution, of records shattered and dreams deferred, of conventional wisdom overturned, and magic created in the most unlikely places. It is a story of the Detroit Lions, the franchise that went 0-16 just 3 years prior, rising from the ashes of historic futility to capture their first playoff berth in over a decade. So close your eyes if you like. Let the words wash over you, like the gentle rhythm of autumn wind through the trees, like the distant sound of crowd noise echoing across empty stadiums during that long, uncertain summer. There is no rush. There is only the story, unfolding slowly, like the arc of a perfectly thrown spiral against the backdrop of a crisp October sky. This is the 2011 NFL season, and it begins not with the roar of the crowd or the crack of shoulder pads, but with the silence of locked doors and the uncertainty of whether there would be a season at all. Chapter 1, The Lockout Crisis. The 2011 NFL season stands as one of the most dramatic and compelling campaigns in football history. But this season nearly never happened. The year began under a dark cloud of uncertainty, as the longest work stoppage in NFL history threatened to cancel the entire campaign. Players and owners battled over billions of dollars in revenue, player safety concerns, and the fundamental structure of America's most popular professional sport. The lockout that began on March 11th and lasted 130 days represented the culmination of years of growing tension between the league's 32 owners and the National Football League Players Association. The owners, led by Commissioner Roger Goodell and Negotiations Committee Chairman Jeff Pash, argued that the existing collective bargaining agreement was financially unsustainable. They claimed that player costs were consuming too large a percentage of revenue, leaving insufficient funds for stadium construction, league operations, and owner profits. The specific numbers were staggering. Under the existing agreement, players received approximately 59% of total revenue, which had grown to over $9 billion annually. The owners wanted to reduce that percentage to 41% while expanding the regular season from 16 games to 18, effectively asking players to work more for less money. They also demanded access to detailed financial records from each franchise, something that had never been provided in previous negotiations. For players, led by Executive Director DeMaurice Smith and NFLPA President Kevin Mawae, these demands represented an unacceptable rollback of gains made over decades of collective bargaining. They argued that the league's popularity and profitability had never been higher, making it unreasonable to reduce player compensation. The 18-game proposal was particularly contentious, as medical experts warned of increased injury rates and shortened careers. The rookie wage scale presented another major sticking point. Under the existing system, top draft picks received guaranteed contracts worth tens of millions of dollars before playing a single professional snap. Sam Bradford, the #1 pick in 2010, had signed a 6-year deal worth $78 million, with $50 million guaranteed. These massive rookie contracts often exceeded the salaries of proven veterans, creating resentment throughout locker rooms. The union's position was complicated by internal divisions. Star quarterbacks like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees had filed a separate antitrust lawsuit against the league, while some veterans privately favored rookie salary caps that would free up money for experienced players. Younger players worried about reduced benefits and shorter careers, while older veterans wanted to maximize earnings in their final seasons. When formal negotiations began in February 2011, both sides remained far apart on fundamental issues. The owner's opening proposal called for an additional $1 billion in revenue off the top before splitting remaining funds, effectively reducing player compensation by hundreds of millions annually. They wanted to eliminate guaranteed rookie contracts, expand the regular season to 18 games, and implement a salary floor that would prevent cheap teams from pocketing revenue-sharing money. Players countered with proposals to improve retired player benefits, increase active roster sizes, and maintain the 16-game regular season. They demanded complete financial transparency, including revenue and expense data from all 32 franchises. Most importantly, they insisted on maintaining their percentage of total revenue, arguing that player performance drove the league's incredible popularity and profitability. As March 11th approached with no agreement in sight, both sides prepared for the lockout that had been inevitable for months. The owners voted unanimously to opt out of the existing CBA, while players voted to decertify the union and pursue antitrust litigation. When the clock struck midnight on March 11th, the NFL officially shut down for the first time since 1987. The lockout's immediate effects were dramatic and far-reaching. Team facilities closed to players, who were prohibited from using training rooms, weight rooms, or practice fields they had accessed year-round for decades. Coaches could not contact players by phone, text, or email. Free agency was suspended indefinitely, leaving hundreds of players in contractual limbo. The NFL draft proceeded as scheduled in April, but drafted players could not sign contracts or participate in rookie minicamp. For fans, the lockout meant uncertainty about whether their favorite teams would play at all in 2011. Season ticket renewals slowed dramatically as supporters questioned whether to commit thousands of dollars for games that might never occur. Television networks worried about having to fill Sunday programming slots typically devoted to football. Fantasy football leagues postponed drafts indefinitely. The economic impact extended far beyond the NFL itself. Stadium vendors, parking attendants, security guards, and thousands of other game day employees faced potential unemployment. Sports bars and restaurants that depended on football traffic prepared for devastating revenue losses. Local economies in NFL cities braced for the absence of the economic activity that 8 home games typically generated. As spring turned to summer with no resolution in sight, pressure mounted from multiple directions. Congressional leaders threatened to revoke the league's antitrust exemption. Television partners who had signed multi-billion-dollar contracts demanded clarity about the upcoming season. Players began organizing alternative workouts and training camps, while agents explored opportunities for their clients in other leagues. Chapter 2: Resolution and Preparation. The breakthrough came in July when federal mediator Arthur Boylan helped facilitate intensive negotiations between the key decision-makers. DeMaurice Smith and Roger Goodell met face-to-face for hours, working through the complex financial and structural issues that had divided their respective sides. The owners' negotiating committee, led by Panthers owner Jerry Richardson and Packers CEO Mark Murphy, gradually softened their most extreme positions. The final agreement reached on July 25th after 16 straight hours of negotiations, represented compromises on both sides. Players would receive 47% of revenue, down from 59%, but higher than the owner's initial 41% offer. The rookie wage scale would be completely overhauled, with a salary cap for first-round picks and reduced guaranteed money across all rounds. The regular season would remain at 16 games, but playoff expansion and an 18-game schedule remained possibilities for future seasons. Player safety provisions were significantly enhanced, including independent neurological consultants for head injuries, limits on contact in practice, and improved benefits for retired players. The owners got their additional $1 billion off the top before revenue sharing, while players received expanded benefits packages and improved working conditions. The new CBA would run for 10 years, providing unprecedented stability and labor peace. When the lockout officially ended on July 25th, both sides expressed relief and optimism about the season ahead. Players reported to training camps within days, compressed schedules that gave coaches minimal time to install systems and evaluate talent. Free agency opened immediately, creating a frenzied few days as hundreds of players changed teams in rapid succession. The compressed free agency period created unprecedented chaos and opportunity. The frenzy continued with defensive end Jason Babin joining Asamuga in Philadelphia, while running back Ronnie Brown also headed to the city of brotherly love. In other significant moves, Plaxico Burress returned to the NFL after his prison sentence, signing with the New York Jets. The Oakland Raiders made a surprising move by acquiring Carson Palmer from Cincinnati in a midseason trade that would eventually occur. Meanwhile, teams scrambled to address roster needs that they had been unable to address during the lockout period. The compressed timeline created unique challenges throughout the league. Veterans skipped most preseason games to avoid injury, leaving coaches with limited opportunities to evaluate rookies and new acquisitions. Playbooks were simplified to accommodate the shortened preparation time. Several preseason games were canceled, including the traditional Hall of Fame game that typically opened the exhibition season. Coaches faced unprecedented challenges in installing their systems with limited practice time. Offensive coordinators focused on basic concepts and plays that their veteran players could execute without extensive repetition. Defensive schemes were simplified to emphasize fundamental techniques and communication. Special teams units had minimal time to develop the timing and chemistry that successful coverage and return units required. The 2011 NFL Draft had already taken place in April, but drafted players were unable to sign contracts or participate in organized team activities until the lockout ended. When rookies finally reported to their teams, they faced an even more compressed timeline than veterans, needing to learn professional systems while adapting to the speed and complexity of NFL competition. Cam Newton, the first overall pick by Carolina, faced particular pressure as a rookie quarterback expected to start immediately. His situation was complicated by the Panthers' coaching change, with Ron Rivera taking over as head coach and installing new offensive and defensive systems. Newton's college experience in Auburn's spread offense provided limited preparation for the pro-style concepts he would need to master. Andy Dalton, selected by Cincinnati, faced similar challenges as a second-round rookie who would need to compete for the starting job with veterans. His situation was somewhat eased by his college experience at TCU in a pro-style offense, but the compressed preparation time limited his ability to build chemistry with receivers and develop comfort in the pocket. Despite these challenges, the 2011 season would prove to be one of the most spectacular in league history. The compressed schedule seemed to energize rather than hinder offensive production, as coaches focused on maximizing their best players rather than installing complex systems. The result was a season of unprecedented passing numbers, dramatic comebacks, and memorable individual performances. The lockout's resolution also created unique storylines for several veteran players who had been uncertain about their futures. Brett Favre's retirement finally stuck, ending speculation about another comeback attempt. Kerry Collins came out of retirement to provide quarterback depth for Indianapolis after they struggled to find adequate replacements for an injured Peyton Manning. Teams also faced salary cap challenges as they navigated the new CBA's financial structure. The revised rookie wage scale freed up significant money for veteran players, but teams had to adjust their roster construction strategies to account for the new realities. The additional revenue that owners would receive off the top before revenue sharing altered the economic dynamics for both large and small market franchises. Chapter 3. The season opens. When the season finally began on September 8th, the opening game perfectly captured the excitement and unpredictability that would define the entire campaign. The Green Bay Packers, the defending Super Bowl champions, hosted the New Orleans Saints, the team they had defeated in the Wildcard round 9 months earlier. Both teams featured high-powered offenses led by elite quarterbacks, setting up a potential shootout at historic Lambeau Field. The anticipation for the season opener was enormous, given the uncertainty that had surrounded the entire campaign during the lockout. NFL fans had been deprived of football for months, and the Lambeau Field crowd was electric from the pre-game ceremonies through the final whistle. The game would serve as a measuring stick for both teams' championship aspirations, and a showcase for the offensive explosion that would define the entire season. The game delivered on its promise, and more. Aaron Rodgers, now firmly established as the Packers' franchise quarterback after Brett Favre's retirement, threw for 312 yards and 3 touchdowns with surgical precision. But Drew Brees matched him nearly throw for throw, completing 39 of 67 passes for 419 yards and 3 scores. The Saints' offense gained over 500 yards of total offense, while the Packers accumulated 474 yards of their own. What made the game truly special was its dramatic flow and multiple momentum swings. The Packers jumped to an early 14-0 lead behind Rodgers' precision passing and a dominant ground game that accumulated over 150 rushing yards. James Starks and Ryan Grant combined for effective rushing that kept the Saints' defense honest, while Rodgers found his favorite targets with remarkable accuracy, despite the compressed preparation time. But the Saints responded with typical resilience, demonstrating the championship experience that had carried them to a Super Bowl title 2 years earlier. Brees began finding openings in Green Bay's defense, completing passes to Jimmy Graham, Marquez Colston, and the newly acquired Darren Sproles. New Orleans scored 21 unanswered points to take a 21-14 lead late in the second quarter, stunning the Lambeau Field crowd. The turning point came just before halftime, when Packers return specialist Randall Cobb fielded a Saints punt at the 12-yard line and raced 108 yards for a touchdown, tying the NFL record for longest punt return. The electrifying score energized the Lambeau Field crowd and gave Green Bay crucial momentum heading into the locker room. Cobb's blazing speed and excellent blocking from his teammates created a seam that he exploited perfectly, leaving Saints defenders grasping at air. The second half featured more explosive plays and lead changes that kept fans on the edge of their seats throughout. Saints running back Darren Sproles, acquired in a trade with San Diego during the compressed free agency period, showcased his versatility with 89 yards receiving and 47 yards rushing. His 9-yard touchdown reception from Brees gave New Orleans a 28-27 lead early in the third quarter, demonstrating the kind of mismatch problems he would create all season. Sproles' impact was immediate and dramatic, as his ability to line up anywhere on the field created confusion for Green Bay's defense. At 5 feet 6 inches and 190 pounds, he possessed the speed to run past linebackers and the elusiveness to make defenders miss in confined spaces. His touchdown catch came on a perfectly executed screen pass that showcased the chemistry he had quickly developed with Brees. But Rodgers would not be denied on his home field in the season opener. The fourth-year quarterback completed his final 8 passes of the game with remarkable accuracy and poise, demonstrating the championship mentality that would define his entire season. His 18-yard touchdown strike to Jordy Nelson with less than 4 minutes remaining showcased both his arm strength and his receiver's reliable hands in crucial moments. Nelson's touchdown catch was a thing of beauty, as he ran a perfect comeback route and made the grab despite tight coverage from Saints cornerback Tracy Porter. The connection between Rodgers and Nelson had been developing for several years, and their chemistry was evident throughout the game. Nelson's 6 catches for 85 yards provided a steady target for Rodgers throughout the contest. The Packers added a late field goal by Mason Crosby for insurance, securing a 42-34 victory that announced their intention to defend their championship. The victory demonstrated that Green Bay had suffered no Super Bowl hangover and remained the team to beat in the NFC. More importantly, it set the tone for what would become one of the most offensive seasons in NFL history. The statistical achievements were staggering for a season opener. The teams combined for 913 yards of total offense, 76 points, and 11 touchdowns. Both quarterbacks threw for over 300 yards, while the game featured explosive plays from running backs, receivers, and special teams units. It was exactly the kind of high-octane entertainment that NFL fans had been denied during the lockout. For Green Bay, the victory validated their status as defending champions and early favorites to repeat. Rodgers had shown no signs of Super Bowl hangover, picking up where he left off with precision passing and exceptional decision-making. The running game had provided balance. The defense had made timely stops, and special teams had delivered a game-changing play. All the elements of championship football were on display. The Saints, despite the loss, had demonstrated they remained among the NFC's elite teams. Brees' performance was vintage, featuring the accuracy and arm strength that had made him one of the league's premier quarterbacks. The addition of Sproles had given them a dynamic weapon who could create mismatches, while Jimmy Graham's continued development at tight end provided another dimension to their already explosive offense. The opening game also featured several other Week 1 storylines that would develop throughout the season. The Detroit Lions defeated Tampa Bay 27-20 behind Matthew Stafford's 305 yards and 3 touchdown passes, announcing their emergence as a legitimate contender. The New England Patriots overwhelmed Miami 38-24, with Tom Brady and Chad Henne combining for a record 933 passing yards. Cam Newton's professional debut with Carolina resulted in a 28-21 loss to Arizona, but his 422 passing yards and 2 touchdowns served notice that the rookie would be an immediate impact player. Andy Dalton and the Cincinnati Bengals defeated Cleveland in his first start, beginning what would become a surprising playoff season for the young quarterback. Chapter 4: Early Season Excellence. As the first month of the season progressed, several teams began to separate themselves from the pack while establishing the narratives that would define the entire campaign. The quality of play throughout the league had been exceptional, despite the compressed preparation time, with several teams posting dominant performances that suggested the lockout had not diminished the overall level of competition. Green Bay continued their dominant play, winning their first 4 games by an average margin of 16 points per contest, while establishing themselves as the clear favorite to repeat as Super Bowl champions. Aaron Rodgers was playing at an otherworldly level that transcended normal quarterback evaluation, completing over 70% of his passes while throwing 14 touchdowns against just 1 interception. His decision-making had been flawless, his accuracy pinpoint, and his leadership evident in every aspect of the team's performance. Rodgers' transformation from talented backup to elite franchise quarterback had been complete as he demonstrated command of Mike McCarthy's offense that went far beyond simply executing plays. His pre-snap recognition and audible calls had been exceptional, allowing him to exploit defensive weaknesses while protecting his teammates from difficult situations. The difference in his confidence and poise compared to his early career was remarkable, reflecting years of preparation and development that were now paying dividends. The Packers' success wasn't solely due to Rodgers' brilliance, though his exceptional play had been the foundation of their early season dominance. Their offensive line, anchored by left tackle Chad Clifton and center Scott Wells, was providing exceptional pass protection that gave Rodgers time to survey the field and make precise throws. The unit's chemistry and communication had been evident in their ability to handle complex blitz packages while creating clean pockets for their quarterback to operate. Green Bay's running game, while not spectacular by traditional measures, had been efficient enough to keep defenses honest while providing balance that prevented opponents from focusing exclusively on stopping their passing attack. James Starks and Ryan Grant had formed an effective committee, each bringing different skill sets that complemented the team's offensive philosophy. Starks' speed and elusiveness had been particularly valuable on outside runs, while Grant's power and patience had been effective in short yardage situations. Most importantly, the Packers' defense had been creating turnovers at a remarkable rate, forcing 13 takeaways in their first 4 games while demonstrating the kind of opportunistic play that championship teams required. The unit had been particularly effective in coverage, with their defensive backs showing excellent ball skills and anticipation. Charles Woodson's veteran leadership had been crucial, while Nick Collins' range and instincts at safety had allowed the defense to be aggressive in their coverage schemes. Green Bay's signature early season performance came in Week 4 against Denver, a 49-23 demolition that showcased their offensive versatility while providing a preview of the struggles that would eventually lead to Tim Tebow's emergence. Rodgers threw for 408 yards and 4 touchdowns with surgical precision, but it was the variety of receivers who contributed that made the performance so impressive and difficult for defenses to game plan against. Jordy Nelson caught 7 passes for 137 yards in a performance that demonstrated his emergence as Rodgers' most reliable target. Nelson's route running precision and reliable hands had made him particularly effective on timing routes, while his chemistry with Rodgers had been evident in several perfectly executed connections. His ability to create separation and make contested catches had been crucial to Green Bay's offensive success. Greg Jennings added 6 catches for 89 yards, while showing the veteran savvy and route running expertise that had made him one of the league's most underrated receivers. His ability to find soft spots in coverage and adjust his routes based on defensive alignments had been particularly valuable, while his leadership in the receiver room had helped younger players develop their games. Driver's veteran presence and clutch catching ability had been valuable in crucial situations, while Jones's size and athleticism had created additional matchup problems for opposing defenses. The New England Patriots had also begun the season with dominant performances that established them as the clear favorite in the AFC, led by Tom Brady's exceptional play that showed no signs of decline despite his advancing age. Brady's partnership with tight end Rob Gronkowski had reached new heights of production and efficiency, as the second-year player had emerged as one of the most dangerous receiving threats in the league. Gronkowski's combination of size, speed, and reliable hands had created mismatches that opposing defenses struggled to address, while his chemistry with Brady had developed into one of the most dangerous connections in football. The Patriots' offensive system under coordinators Bill O'Brien and Josh McDaniels had been perfectly designed to maximize Brady's strengths while creating opportunities for their diverse group of skill position players. The use of multiple receiver sets and formation shifts had created confusion for opposing defenses, while the incorporation of running backs as receivers had added another dimension to their already potent passing attack. Wes Welker's continued excellence from the slot position had provided Brady with a reliable safety valve, while demonstrating remarkable consistency and production. Welker's route running precision and ability to find openings in coverage had been exceptional, while his toughness and willingness to work over the middle had been crucial to New England's offensive success. His partnership with Brady had reached levels of synchronization that seemed almost telepathic. Brady's performance in the season opener against Miami had been spectacular, featuring 517 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 38-24 victory that announced New England's offensive intentions for the entire season. The achievement had been particularly impressive, given the compressed preparation time following the lockout, suggesting that the quality of play would not suffer despite the unusual circumstances. The Detroit Lions had provided one of the early season's most compelling storylines with their dramatic turnaround from the franchise that had gone 0-16 just 3 years earlier. The transformation had been remarkable in its completeness, as the team had evolved from historically bad to genuinely competitive while capturing the imagination of fans who had suffered through decades of disappointment. His combination of physical tools and improved decision-making had been evident in every game, while his ability to perform in clutch situations had been crucial to the team's early success. Stafford's partnership with Calvin Johnson had created one of the most explosive passing combinations in the league, with their connection representing the kind of quarterback-receiver duo that could change games with a single play. Johnson's superhuman receiving ability had been on full display throughout the early season, as he made contested catches and spectacular plays that reminded fans why he had earned the nickname Megatron. Johnson's combination of size, speed, and leaping ability had made him virtually uncoverable in one-on-one situations, while his reliability in crucial moments had been essential to Detroit's surprising success. His route running had improved dramatically, while his understanding of defensive concepts had allowed him to find openings and create separation even against elite coverage. The Lions' improvement had extended beyond their offensive stars to include better play from their defense and special teams units. Ndamukong Suh's disruptive presence on the defensive line had transformed their ability to pressure opposing quarterbacks, while the addition of new defensive coordinator Gunther Cunningham had brought improved schemes and intensity to the unit. Detroit's early season success had generated tremendous excitement among fans who had endured years of futility and embarrassment. Chapter 5. The Tim Tebow phenomenon begins. The Broncos' struggles under Kyle Orton would lead to one of the most compelling and polarizing quarterback stories in NFL history. Denver had opened the season with inconsistent play from Orton, compiling a disappointing 1-3 record with an anemic offense that averaged just 14 points per game through the first month. The team that had reached the playoffs in 2005 behind Jake Plummer was now mired in mediocrity, unable to generate consistent scoring despite having talented skill position players. Orton's limitations had become increasingly apparent with each passing week. The veteran quarterback was completing passes at a decent rate, but lacked the arm strength to threaten defenses vertically and the mobility to extend plays when protection broke down. His conservative approach and limited upside had created a ceiling that Denver seemed unable to break through. Head coach John Fox faced a difficult decision heading into Week 5 that would define not only the remainder of the season, but his tenure as Denver's coach. Tebow's college career had been legendary, featuring 2 national championships, a Heisman Trophy, and numerous records at the University of Florida. His performance in big games had been exceptional, including his emotional speech after Florida's loss to Mississippi in 2008 that preceded their run to another national title. His combination of running ability, arm strength, and leadership had made him one of the most successful college quarterbacks in history. But NFL scouts and analysts questioned whether his unorthodox throwing motion and running-oriented skill set would translate to professional success. His delivery was considered too long for NFL timing routes, while his accuracy on intermediate passes was inconsistent. Critics argued that his college success had been more a product of superior athletic ability and coaching than the kind of precision passing that professional football demanded. Tebow's rookie season in 2010 had been largely disappointing, confirming many of the doubts that had surrounded his draft selection. Limited playing time and struggles in the preseason had raised questions about whether he would ever develop into a starting caliber quarterback. His unusual delivery and tendency to hold the ball too long had made him a target for criticism from media and fans alike. The decision to start Tebow came after Denver's fourth loss, a crushing 49-23 defeat to Green Bay that exposed the limitations of their current offensive approach. The Packers had completely dominated the game, with Aaron Rodgers throwing 4 touchdowns while Denver managed just 14 points against Green Bay's defense. The loss had been particularly frustrating because it came at home, where the Broncos needed to establish themselves as competitive. Fox and defensive coordinator Mike McCoy believed that Tebow's mobility and intangible leadership qualities might provide a spark that the team desperately needed. His ability to extend plays with his legs could create opportunities for receivers to get open, while his competitive drive and positive attitude might energize teammates who had appeared to lose confidence in their ability to win games. Tebow's first start came in Week 5 against Miami, a homecoming of sorts for the former Florida quarterback who had dominated college football in the state for 4 years. The Dolphins represented a quality opponent that would provide a legitimate test of whether Tebow's unique skill set could translate to professional success. Miami's defense featured experienced players who would not be intimidated by his reputation or collegiate accomplishments. The game would prove to be a microcosm of Tebow's entire professional career, featuring moments of brilliance mixed with stretches of inconsistent play that left analysts and fans debating his true potential. His performance would encapsulate everything that made him such a polarizing figure, demonstrating both his remarkable clutch gene and the mechanical limitations that made traditional evaluation so difficult. The Dolphins took an early 15-0 lead, capitalizing on Tebow's early struggles and the Broncos' offensive miscues. Miami's defense had clearly prepared extensively for Tebow's running ability, using disciplined gap control and assignment football to limit his scrambling opportunities. Tebow completed just 4 of his first 14 pass attempts, looking tentative and uncomfortable in the pocket as Miami's pass rush affected his timing and accuracy. For 3 quarters, it appeared that the critics had been correct about Tebow's limitations. His passes were sailing high or low. His decision-making appeared slow, and his running attempts were being stopped for minimal gains. The Dolphins' defense was making him look like exactly what skeptics had claimed, a college quarterback whose unique talents could not overcome the speed and complexity of professional football. But football games are decided over 4 quarters, and Tebow's best quality had always been his ability to perform under pressure when the stakes were highest. As the 4th quarter began with Denver facing a seemingly insurmountable deficit, something changed in both Tebow's demeanor and his execution. The quarterback who had looked uncomfortable and out of place for 3 quarters suddenly began playing with the confidence and poise that had defined his college career. The turning point came late in the 4th quarter with Denver trailing 15-7 and facing the possibility of falling to 1-4. Tebow engineered a masterful comeback that showcased all the intangible qualities that had made him such a successful college player. The game-winning drive was a thing of beauty, featuring Tebow's improved accuracy and poise under pressure. He completed 4 straight passes with the season potentially on the line, finding receivers with the kind of timing and placement that had been absent for most of the game. His connection with Thomas on the winning score was perfectly placed, allowing the receiver to make the catch while avoiding Miami's coverage. The victory sent shockwaves through the NFL and captured the attention of fans nationwide who had been starved for compelling storylines during a season that had nearly been canceled. Tebow's 4th quarter heroics had been clutch and dramatic, But more importantly, they had demonstrated the kind of intangible leadership and competitive fire that could not be measured by traditional statistics. The transformation in Denver's entire team was immediately apparent. Players who had looked defeated and lifeless under Orton began playing with renewed energy and confidence, as if Tebow's belief in their ability to win had become contagious. The defense started generating more consistent pressure and creating turnovers, while special teams units played with increased intensity and focus. Tebow's unique skill set forced opposing defenses to prepare for concepts they rarely faced during a typical NFL season. Most importantly, Tebow had proven that he possessed the most crucial quality for any quarterback: the ability to lead his team to victory when the game was on the line. His statistical line might not have been impressive by traditional measures, but his impact on the outcome had been undeniable. The debate about his long-term viability would continue, but there was no questioning his ability to perform in clutch situations. Chapter 6. Dominant defenses and breakthrough teams. While offensive records dominated the headlines and captured most of the national attention, several teams were quietly building championship foundations through defensive excellence that would prove crucial in the postseason. The philosophy of building through defense had not disappeared despite the league's increasing emphasis on passing offense, and these teams were demonstrating that elite defensive play remained the most reliable path to sustained success. The turnaround had been so complete and dramatic that it seemed almost impossible to believe these were the same players who had struggled so mightily the previous season. Harbaugh's impact had been immediate and unmistakable from the moment he arrived in Santa Clara after a successful stint at Stanford University. Harbaugh had simplified the offensive system while emphasizing ball security and decision-making, allowing Smith to operate efficiently within his skill set rather than forcing him to be something he was not. Fangio's schemes had been perfectly suited to the personnel he inherited, maximizing the talents of veteran players while incorporating younger contributors who had thrived in clearly defined roles. The unit had been built around exceptional linebacker play, with Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman forming one of the most dynamic and devastating duos in the game. Their combination of speed, instincts, and football intelligence had been remarkable, while their ability to cover receivers, stop the run, and rush the passer had given Fangio maximum flexibility in his defensive game planning. His ability to diagnose plays and communicate adjustments had been crucial to the defense's success, while his coverage skills had allowed him to match up with tight ends and slot receivers in ways that traditional middle linebackers could not. Bowman's emergence as an elite player had given the 49ers incredible depth and versatility at the linebacker position, while his physical style and tackling ability had been crucial to their run defense. The defensive line had been anchored by Justin Smith, whose combination of strength and technique had made him one of the most effective pass rushers in the game, despite his advanced age. Smith's ability to generate pressure while maintaining gap integrity had been essential to the defense's success against both run and pass, while his leadership and professionalism had been important to the team's overall culture and development. His ability to rush the passer while occasionally dropping into coverage had made him a valuable weapon in Fangio's diverse scheme. The Ravens' approach to team building had emphasized balance and complementary football, with each unit supporting the others in ways that maximized their collective effectiveness. Lewis's ability to diagnose plays and communicate adjustments had remained at elite levels, while his understanding of offensive concepts and tendencies had allowed him to position himself and his teammates for success. His role had evolved from the purely physical linebacker he had been in his prime to more of a quarterback on defense, directing traffic and making sure everyone was in the correct position. Reed's ball skills and instincts had remained unmatched throughout the league, while his return ability had provided game-changing field position on multiple occasions. His communication and leadership had been equally important, as his experience and football intelligence had been valuable resources for younger players. The Ravens' pass rush had been anchored by Terrell Suggs, whose 14 sacks had led the team while creating the kind of consistent pressure that made life difficult for opposing quarterbacks throughout the season. Suggs' combination of speed and power had made him effective, rushing from multiple positions, while his leadership and intensity had been crucial to the unit's identity and success. Aloti Ngata had dominated the interior of the defensive line with his combination of size, strength, and athleticism that had been virtually impossible to block one-on-one. The achievement had been particularly meaningful for a city that had been without NFL football since the Oilers relocated to Tennessee in 1997. The Texans' success had been built on the foundation of a dominant defense that allowed just 17.1 points per game while creating 31 turnovers and establishing itself as one of the most opportunistic units in the league. The defense had been the product of smart drafting and player development, with several homegrown players forming the core of a unit that had exceeded expectations throughout the season. Rookie defensive end JJ Watt had provided immediate impact with his relentless motor and versatility, demonstrating the kind of work ethic and football intelligence that suggested he could develop into one of the league's premier defensive players. His 56 tackles, 5.5 sacks, and 4 passes defensed had been outstanding numbers for a rookie defensive lineman. But his intangible impact had been even more significant. Watt's motor and intensity had elevated the play of his teammates throughout the season, while his versatility had allowed defensive coordinator Wade Phillips to use him in multiple roles within the same game. His ability to rush the passer, stop the run, and occasionally drop into coverage had made him a matchup nightmare for opposing offensive coordinators who struggled to account for his diverse skill set. The Texans' defense had featured outstanding players at every level, creating a unit that had no obvious weaknesses while possessing multiple players capable of making game-changing plays. Linebacker Brian Cushing had provided speed and physicality in the middle of the defense, while his ability to cover receivers and fill running lanes had been crucial to Houston's success against both run and pass. Safety Glover Quinn had provided back-end leadership and ball skills that had been essential to the secondary's success, while his 7 interceptions had tied for the league lead among safeties. His ability to communicate coverage adjustments and provide run support had been valuable, while his ball skills and return ability had created additional opportunities for the team's offense. Chapter 7. Record-breaking performances. The individual achievements of the 2011 season were staggering in their scope and historical significance. What made these performances even more remarkable was that they were occurring simultaneously, creating a level of offensive excellence that the NFL had never witnessed in a single campaign. Aaron Rodgers was authoring the most efficient quarterback campaign in NFL history, completing over 68% of his passes while posting a passer rating that would shatter Peyton Manning's previous record of 121.1. Rodgers' transformation from Brett Favre's backup to the league's most dominant player had been one of the season's most compelling narratives. For years, he had waited patiently behind one of the game's greatest quarterbacks, learning the nuances of professional football while dealing with constant speculation about when his opportunity would come. When Favre's departure finally cleared the way for Rodgers to take control, he had exceeded even the most optimistic projections. The Packers' offensive system under Mike McCarthy had been perfectly suited to Rodgers' skill set, emphasizing timing routes and precision passing that maximized his accuracy and football intelligence. His ability to read defenses at the line of scrimmage and make pre-snap adjustments had been exceptional, while his mobility in the pocket had allowed him to extend plays and find open receivers even when protection broke down. Rodgers' favorite targets had all benefited from his exceptional play, with Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, and Donald Driver, all posting career numbers while contributing to Green Bay's record-setting offense. Nelson's deep speed and reliable hands had made him particularly dangerous on vertical routes, while Jennings' route-running precision and Jennings' veteran savvy had provided Rodgers with multiple options on every play. Brady was averaging over 327 yards per game, requiring both exceptional performance and remarkable durability to achieve the milestone that had stood since 1984. Brady's partnership with Rob Gronkowski was reaching unprecedented levels of production, as the second-year tight end was redefining what was possible at his position. Gronkowski's combination of size, speed, and reliable hands had created mismatches that opposing defenses could not solve, while his chemistry with Brady had developed into one of the most dangerous connections in football. The Patriots' offensive system under coordinators Bill O'Brien and Josh McDaniels had been perfectly designed to maximize Brady's strengths, while creating opportunities for their diverse group of skill position players. Wes Welker's continued excellence from the slot position had provided Brady with a reliable safety valve, while newcomers like Chad Ochocinco and Albert Haynesworth had added veteran experience and depth. Brady's pursuit of the record had captured national attention, with media and fans tracking his progress week by week as he closed in on Marino's mark of 5,084 yards. The pressure of chasing such a prestigious record while leading his team toward the playoffs had been immense. But Brady had thrived under the spotlight while maintaining his typically high level of performance. Drew Brees was quietly assembling his own record-breaking campaign in New Orleans, threatening to surpass even Brady's pursuit of Marino's mark with a season that combined exceptional volume with unprecedented accuracy. Brees' completion percentage of over 71% had been remarkable at such a high attempt rate, demonstrating a level of precision that had never been achieved in the modern passing era. The Saints' offense under Sean Payton had been a thing of beauty, featuring innovative play designs and creative formations that maximized the talents of their diverse skill position players. Jimmy Graham's emergence as an elite receiving threat at tight end had provided Brees with a matchup nightmare, while Darren Sproles' versatility had added another dimension to their already explosive attack. Brees' pre-snap recognition and adjustment abilities had been exceptional throughout the season, allowing him to exploit defensive weaknesses and find open receivers even against the most sophisticated coverage schemes. His ability to distribute the ball to multiple targets had been evident in the Saints' balanced receiving statistics, with several players posting impressive individual numbers. These achievements had demonstrated not just individual excellence, but systematic superiority in offensive execution. Johnson's combination of size, speed, and leaping ability had made him virtually uncoverable in one-on-one situations, while his reliability in crucial moments had been essential to Detroit's surprising success. Johnson's partnership with Matthew Stafford had created one of the most explosive passing combinations in football, with their connection developing into the kind of telepathic understanding that defined elite quarterback-receiver duos. Stafford's arm strength had allowed him to make throws that other quarterbacks could not attempt, while Johnson's ability to win contested catches had given Detroit a reliable weapon in any situation. The Lions' offensive transformation had been remarkable, as the team that had gone 0-16 just 3 years earlier had developed into one of the league's most dangerous passing attacks. Stafford's development as a franchise quarterback had been evident in his improved decision-making and pocket presence, while his 4 comeback victories had demonstrated the kind of clutch gene that championship teams required. The emergence of rookie quarterbacks as immediate impact players provided another compelling narrative that challenged traditional notions about the learning curve required for success at the position. His 21 passing touchdowns had also been impressive, showing that he could find the end zone consistently while learning to read NFL defenses. But it was Newton's rushing ability that made him truly unique among rookie quarterbacks. as his 706 rushing yards had been the second highest total by a quarterback in NFL history. His 14 rushing touchdowns had shattered the previous single-season record for quarterbacks, establishing him as the most dangerous dual-threat signal caller the league had ever seen. Newton's impact had extended beyond statistics to cultural significance, as he had become one of the most recognizable and marketable players in the league, despite playing for a losing team. His smile, charisma, and community involvement had made him a favorite among fans and media, while his unique playing style had created highlight reel moments that showcased the entertainment value of professional football. Andy Dalton's successful rookie campaign with Cincinnati had been equally impressive in its own way, as the second-round draft pick had led the Bengals to their first playoff appearance since 2005. Dalton's 20,398 passing yards and 20 touchdowns had been solid numbers for any quarterback, much less a rookie, while his completion percentage of 58.1% had been respectable given his inexperience. The statistical achievements across the league had been unprecedented, with multiple players setting records in various categories while contributing to what many considered the greatest offensive season in NFL history. The combination of rule changes that favored offensive play, improved training methods, and exceptional individual talent had created perfect conditions for record-breaking performances. Chapter 8: Mid-Season Drama and Developments. As the season reached its midpoint, several storylines began to crystallize, while new ones emerged that would define the remainder of the campaign and set up compelling narratives for the postseason. The quality of play throughout the league had remained exceptionally high, despite the compressed preparation time, while individual performances had continued to shatter records and establish new benchmarks for excellence. The transformation had been so complete and sudden that it seemed almost impossible to believe this was the same franchise that had made the playoffs in 9 of the previous 10 seasons. Manning's absence had created a domino effect throughout the organization that had revealed the extent to which the Colts had become dependent on their franchise quarterback's ability to elevate the play of teammates and mask weaknesses in other areas. Without Manning's pre-snap adjustments, audible calls, and exceptional decision-making, the offense had become virtually non-functional, while the defense had struggled without the support of consistent offensive production. Collins, the veteran who had been brought out of retirement, had shown his age and lack of preparation time in several disappointing performances. His performances had been so poor that they had raised questions about whether he possessed the talent necessary to succeed at the professional level. The possibility of drafting Luck had provided Indianapolis fans with hope for the future, despite their team's historically poor performance. Luck's college career at Stanford had been exceptional, featuring the kind of arm strength, accuracy, and football intelligence that NFL scouts and executives craved in a franchise quarterback. His ability to make all the throws while demonstrating exceptional poise under pressure had drawn favorable comparisons to Manning, while his leadership and character had been universally praised by coaches and teammates. The Philadelphia Eagles' disappointing season had become another major surprise and source of frustration for fans and media members who had expected dramatic improvement following the team's aggressive approach to free agency. His reputation as a shutdown cornerback had created unrealistic expectations for immediate defensive improvement, but the integration of multiple new players had proven more difficult than anticipated. Jason Babin's addition at defensive end had provided pass rush ability that the Eagles had lacked in previous seasons, and his 18 sacks had been among the few bright spots in an otherwise disappointing campaign. His leadership and professionalism had been positive influences on younger players, while his production had validated the team's decision to invest in his services. Michael Vick's inconsistent play had been a major factor in the Eagles' struggles throughout the season, as injuries and poor decision-making had limited his effectiveness while raising questions about his long-term viability as a franchise quarterback. The Eagles' offensive line had struggled with protection throughout the season, allowing numerous sacks and hits that had disrupted the timing of Andy Reid's passing game while limiting the effectiveness of the running attack. The unit's inability to create consistent running lanes had also been problematic, forcing the team to rely too heavily on Vic's arm and mobility. Deshaun Jackson had provided explosive plays throughout the season with his deep speed and return ability, but his inconsistency and perceived attitude issues had been sources of frustration for coaches and teammates. His ability to stretch defenses vertically had been valuable when utilized properly, but his reluctance to work over the middle of the field had limited his overall effectiveness and reliability. The team's ability to win close games and perform in clutch situations had been the most encouraging aspect of their development, suggesting that they possessed the mental toughness necessary for sustained success. Matthew Stafford's ability to perform in clutch situations had been evident throughout the season, in a series of dramatic comeback victories that had showcased his arm strength, poise under pressure, and growing leadership abilities. His 4 game-winning drives had been particularly impressive, demonstrating the kind of competitive fire and decision-making that franchise quarterbacks required. The throw had required perfect placement and timing, while Johnson's catch had demonstrated why he had earned the nickname Megatron for his superhuman athletic ability. Stafford's partnership with Johnson had continued to develop throughout the season, creating one of the most explosive and reliable passing combinations in the league. Their chemistry had been evident in numerous big plays, while Johnson's ability to make contested catches had given Stafford confidence to attempt throws that other quarterbacks might not risk. His combination of size, strength, and quickness had made him nearly impossible to block one-on-one, while his pass rush ability had been particularly valuable on third-down situations. The New York Giants had quietly positioned themselves as legitimate contenders in the competitive NFC East, with steady improvement in all phases of the game while maintaining the kind of consistency that had been lacking in previous seasons. Eli Manning's continued development as a leader and decision-maker had been crucial to their success, while his improved pocket presence had allowed him to make more accurate throws under pressure. Cruz's route running and hands had improved dramatically, while his chemistry with Manning had developed into one of the more reliable connections in the league. The emergence of Cruz alongside established receivers like Hakeem Nicks and Mario Manningham had given Manning multiple options while creating depth that championship teams required. The receiving corps had shown the ability to make plays at all levels of the field, while their blocking in the running game had been valuable in establishing a more balanced offensive attack. The Giants' defense, led by their pass rush, had shown the ability to compete with elite offenses while generating the kind of pressure that could disrupt even the most sophisticated passing attacks. Jason Pierre-Paul and Osi Umenyiora had formed a devastating combination off the edges, while their speed and athleticism had created consistent problems for opposing offensive lines. Chapter 9: December Football and Playoff Races. December brought the kind of increased intensity and urgency that made NFL football so compelling, as teams fought desperately for playoff positioning while individual players pursued statistical milestones that would secure their places in history. The atmosphere throughout the league had been electric, with every game carrying enormous significance and the potential to dramatically alter the postseason landscape. The parity throughout the league had been evident in the number of teams that remained mathematically alive for playoff berths entering the final weeks of the season. The poetic justice of Brady breaking the record against the Dolphins had not been lost on fans and media members who appreciated the historical significance of the moment. His achievement had moved him to 5,235 yards for the season, breaking Marino's record of 5,084 yards, with one game still remaining on the schedule. The Patriots' celebration of Brady's achievement had been muted by their focus on team goals. but the significance of surpassing one of football's most prestigious individual records had not been lost on anyone in the organization. Brady's durability and consistency throughout the season had been remarkable, as he had maintained elite performance levels while carrying an enormous workload for 16 consecutive games. Rob Gronkowski's record-breaking season had continued alongside Brady's pursuit of individual honors, as the tight end had established himself as one of the most dominant receiving threats in NFL history, regardless of position. His 87 catches for 1,277 yards and 15 touchdowns through 15 games had already shattered multiple records while establishing new benchmarks for production at his position. His ability to line up anywhere on the field had made him a matchup nightmare for defensive coordinators who struggled to find personnel capable of covering him effectively. His pursuit had been less publicized than Brady's, but equally impressive, featuring the kind of accuracy and volume that had never been achieved simultaneously in NFL history. His final numbers of 5,476 yards had not simply broken Brady's week-old record. They had obliterated it by more than 200 yards while establishing a new standard that might never be equaled. The Saints' offensive explosion in their record-setting victory had been a thing of beauty, featuring the kind of precision passing and creative play calling that had made them one of the most entertaining teams to watch throughout the season. Sean Payton's offensive schemes had been perfectly designed to maximize Brees' strengths while creating opportunities for their diverse group of skill position players to contribute. Jimmy Graham had been particularly effective in the record-setting performance, catching 9 passes for 96 yards while demonstrating the kind of route running and hands that had made him one of the most dangerous receiving threats in the league. His basketball background had been evident in his ability to high-point passes and create separation from defenders in traffic. Darren Sproles had added another dimension to the Saints' record-setting offense, contributing as both a runner and receiver while providing the kind of versatility that made him impossible for opposing defenses to account for properly. His 86 receptions for 710 yards had been remarkable for a running back, while his 603 rushing yards had demonstrated his value as a traditional ground threat as well. Green Bay had secured the #1 seed in the NFC with their remarkable 15-1 record, earning home field advantage throughout the playoffs while establishing themselves as overwhelming favorites to repeat as Super Bowl champions. The decision to rest starters had been controversial among some fans who wanted to see the team pursue a perfect regular season, but Coach Mike McCarthy had prioritized long-term success over short-term glory. His completion percentage of 68.3% had been equally impressive, demonstrating accuracy at a volume level that validated his status as the league's premier quarterback. The Packers' offense had been virtually unstoppable throughout the season, averaging 35 points per game while setting franchise records in multiple categories. Their receiving core had been exceptional, with Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, and Donald Driver all contributing significantly while demonstrating the kind of depth that championship teams required. The parity throughout both conferences had been evident in the number of teams that remained alive for playoff berths entering the season's final weekend. Detroit had secured their first playoff berth since 1999 with a 10-6 record, ending one of the longest droughts in professional sports while validating the remarkable transformation that had taken place under coach Jim Schwartz. The Lions' ability to win close games and perform in clutch situations had been crucial to their success, with Matthew Stafford's 4-game winning drives providing the kind of leadership that franchise quarterbacks required. The Lions' playoff-clinching victory over Green Bay's reserves had been emotional for players and fans who had endured years of disappointment and embarrassment. Calvin Johnson's continued dominance had been essential to their success, as his 1,681 receiving yards had led the league while his 16 touchdown receptions had tied for the most in the NFL. Houston had captured the AFC South title and earned their first playoff berth in franchise history. completing a remarkable journey that had begun when the city was awarded an expansion franchise following the Oilers' departure to Tennessee. The Texans' breakthrough had been built on their dominant defense, which had allowed just 17.1 points per game while creating the kind of turnovers that championship teams required. J.J. Watt's outstanding rookie season had been central to Houston's defensive success, as his motor and versatility had elevated the play of his teammates while demonstrating the kind of work ethic and football intelligence that suggested a bright future. His ability to rush the passer, stop the run, and occasionally drop into coverage had made him a matchup nightmare for opposing offensive coordinators. The AFC West had been claimed by Denver despite their 8-8 record, as Tim Tebow's magical run had culminated in a division championship that few would have predicted when he took over as the starting quarterback in Week 6. The Broncos' 7 victories in their final 11 games had represented one of the most improbable turnarounds in recent memory, with Tebow's clutch gene and leadership ability proving more valuable than traditional quarterback statistics. His playoff victory over Pittsburgh would add another chapter to one of the most unlikely quarterback stories in NFL history. Cincinnati had earned the final wild card spot in the AFC behind the steady play of rookie quarterback Andy Dalton and receiver A.J. Green, who had formed an immediate connection that suggested bright things for the franchise's future. Their 9-7 record had been impressive for a team that had been rebuilding, while their playoff berth had validated the patient approach taken by coach Marvin Lewis and the front office. The NFC wildcard race had been equally competitive, with the New York Giants securing one spot despite a 9-7 record that reflected their inconsistent play throughout the season. Eli Manning's steady improvement and the emergence of Victor Cruz had been crucial to their success, while their defense had shown flashes of the dominance that would be essential in the playoffs. Atlanta had claimed the other NFC wildcard berth with a 10-6 record, though their playoff appearance would be brief due to their inability to generate consistent offensive production in crucial moments. The Falcons had possessed talented individual players, but had lacked the chemistry and execution necessary to compete with elite teams when the stakes were highest. Chapter 10. Wildcard Weekend. The playoffs opened with compelling matchups that immediately delivered drama and memorable moments. The Houston Texans hosted Cincinnati in the franchise's first playoff game in team history, representing the culmination of nearly a decade of patient building under owner Bob McNair and general manager Rick Smith. The game unfolded as a defensive struggle that favored the more experienced Houston team. The Texans' defense dominated, pressuring Andy Dalton throughout while limiting Cincinnati's running attack. Arian Foster provided the offensive spark with 153 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, while the defense forced 3 interceptions in a 31-10 victory. The defining moment came when rookie J.J. Watt intercepted Dalton's pass at the line of scrimmage and returned it 29 yards for a touchdown, demonstrating exceptional instincts and athleticism. The play gave Houston crucial momentum in their historic first playoff victory. New Orleans defeated Detroit 45-28 in an offensive showcase at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Drew Brees was magnificent, completing 33 of 43 passes for 466 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Saints never punted, gaining a playoff record 626 yards while demonstrating their championship pedigree. Calvin Johnson delivered one of the greatest playoff performances by a receiver, catching 12 passes for 211 yards and 2 touchdowns, despite playing through injury. However, Detroit's defense could not contain New Orleans' explosive offense in what became an early exit for the surprising Lions. The Sunday wildcard games provided equal drama. The New York Giants dominated Atlanta, 24-2 in a defensive masterpiece at MetLife Stadium, completely shutting down the Falcons' offense while Eli Manning threw for 277 yards and 3 touchdowns. Chapter 11. Tebow's Miracle. But the most memorable wild card game took place in Denver, where Tim Tebow and the Broncos faced Pittsburgh in a matchup that represented far more than just a playoff game. Pittsburgh entered the game as heavy favorites, carrying the reputation of a franchise that had won 6 Super Bowl championships and possessed the kind of playoff experience that Denver sorely lacked. For most of the game, it appeared that conventional football wisdom would prevail. Ben Roethlisberger had managed the game effectively, completing key passes when needed while avoiding the kind of mistakes that had plagued him in previous playoff appearances. The Steelers had clearly studied extensive film of Denver's offense, and their preparation was evident in their ability to string together stops and create negative plays. Tebow had struggled mightily for most of the contest, completing just 9 of 26 passes for 136 yards while facing consistent pressure from Pittsburgh's aggressive pass rush. His usual confidence and poise had seemed absent, replaced by the tentative play that critics had always predicted would doom him against elite competition. The Broncos' running game had been largely ineffective, managing just 167 yards against a defense that had been specifically designed to stop their option concepts. But Tebow's greatest strength had always been his ability to perform under pressure when the stakes were highest. And the biggest stage brought out the performance that would define his legacy. With elimination looming and his team facing a 10-point deficit with less than 5 minutes remaining, something changed in both Tebow's demeanor and his execution. The quarterback, who had looked overwhelmed and out of place for 3 quarters, suddenly began playing with the confidence and clutch gene that had made him such a successful college player. The comeback began with a methodical drive that showcased improved accuracy and decision-making from Tebow, who suddenly began finding receivers with the kind of timing and precision that had been absent for most of the game. With the score tied at 21 and overtime looming, both teams had opportunities to win the game in regulation. Pittsburgh drove into field goal range but missed a potential game winner, while Denver had a chance for their own field goal attempt that also sailed wide. The stage was set for overtime, and the kind of dramatic finish that playoff football had been designed to produce. The rules change meant that a touchdown would end the game immediately, while a field goal would give the opposing team a chance to respond. Denver's offensive coordinator, Mike McCoy, had called for an empty backfield formation with 5 receivers spread across the field, a formation designed to create mismatches and give Tebow multiple options based on Pittsburgh's coverage. The Steelers aligned in a coverage that left Demaryius Thomas in single coverage against safety Ryan Mundy, a matchup that heavily favored the receivers' speed and size advantages. What happened next became one of the most iconic plays in playoff history. Tebow took the snap, looked to his left to move the safety, then delivered a perfect strike to Thomas on a slant pattern at approximately the 20-yard line. The pass was placed exactly where only Thomas could catch it, demonstrating the kind of accuracy and timing that Tebow's critics had claimed he could never achieve at the professional level. But the play was far from over. Thomas caught the ball in traffic, broke Mundy's tackle attempt with a powerful stiff arm, and then showcased the blazing speed that had made him a first-round draft pick. He raced 80 yards to the end zone untouched, leaving Pittsburgh defenders grasping at air while Sports Authority Field erupted in the kind of celebration that Denver had not experienced in over a decade. The number 316 held special significance for Tebow, representing John chapter 3, verse 16 from the Christian Bible, and the coincidental timing of the play added to the mystique that surrounded his unlikely professional career. The victory sent shockwaves through the football world and validated everything that Tebow's supporters had argued about his intangible qualities and ability to perform in crucial moments. Critics who had dismissed his success as unsustainable were forced to acknowledge that he possessed something that could not be measured by traditional statistics, the ability to make magical things happen when his team needed them most. For Denver, the victory represented vindication of their decision to turn to Tebow, despite the criticism and skepticism that had surrounded the move. The franchise that had struggled to find consistent quarterback play since John Elway's retirement had discovered a player who might not fit conventional molds, but could deliver results when games were on the line. The celebration at Sports Authority Field was unlike anything the city had experienced since the Broncos' Super Bowl victories in the late 1990s. Fans who had endured years of mediocrity and disappointment suddenly had a reason to believe that something special might be happening with their team, while Tebow's inspirational story resonated far beyond the football field. The national reaction was equally dramatic, as Tebow's overtime heroics captured the imagination of casual fans who might not normally follow football closely. His combination of athletic achievement and religious faith had made him a cultural phenomenon that transcended sports, while his ability to deliver in clutch moments had silenced many of his critics. The victory also represented a changing of the guard in the AFC playoffs, as the young Broncos had defeated a Pittsburgh team that had been a model of consistency and success for the better part of 2 decades. Chapter 12. Divisional Round Upsets. The Divisional Round delivered even more drama and shocking upsets. The New York Giants traveled to Green Bay to face the 15-1 Packers at Lambeau Field, a matchup that few expected to be competitive. The Packers were nearly 3-touchdown favorites and appeared destined for another NFC Championship game appearance. But the Giants had other plans, playing with poise and confidence despite the hostile environment. New York dominated the game from start to finish. Eli Manning threw for 330 yards and 4 touchdowns, while the defense completely neutralized Aaron Rodgers, sacking him 4 times and forcing multiple turnovers. The Giants jumped to an early 14-3 lead and never allowed Green Bay to establish their offensive rhythm. Their pass rush generated constant pressure, while the secondary provided tight coverage that prevented the Packers' receivers from creating separation. The final score of 37-20 was shocking in its decisiveness, ending Green Bay's dreams of a perfect season. The AFC Divisional Round featured New England crushing Denver 45-10, ending Tim Tebow's magical run in convincing fashion. Tom Brady threw for 363 yards and 6 touchdowns, while the Patriots' defense limited Tebow to just 136 passing yards. The victory sent New England to the AFC Championship game. Baltimore defeated Houston 20-13. In a defensive struggle that showcased their championship pedigree. Ray Rice rushed for 191 yards, while the defense forced crucial turnovers, advancing the Ravens to face New England for the AFC title. In the NFC, San Francisco defeated New Orleans 36-32 in one of the greatest playoff games in history, featuring spectacular individual performances and a dramatic finish. The 49ers' victory set up a championship game matchup with the Giants. Chapter 13. Championship Games. The conference championship games delivered the drama and excitement that fans expected. The AFC Championship between New England and Baltimore was a physical, back-and-forth affair that came down to the final minutes. Tom Brady threw for 398 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Ray Rice provided Baltimore's offensive spark with 78 yards and 2 scores. The Patriots won 23-20 in a game that featured multiple lead changes and clutch performances from both quarterbacks. Rob Gronkowski caught 8 passes for 108 yards despite playing through injury, while the Patriots' defense made crucial stops when needed most. The NFC Championship game was even more dramatic, as the Giants defeated San Francisco 20-17 in overtime at Candlestick Park. The game was played in difficult weather conditions that affected both teams' passing games, creating a physical, grinding contest that favored experienced playoff performers. Eli Manning threw for 216 yards and 2 touchdowns, including the game winner in overtime to Mario Manningham. The Giants' defense forced crucial turnovers while generating consistent pressure on Alex Smith, advancing New York to Super Bowl XLVI for a rematch with New England. Chapter 14, Super Bowl 46. Super Bowl 46 took place on February 5th, 2012, at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, creating a perfect setting for what would become one of the most compelling championship games in recent memory. The build-up to the game had been extraordinary, with media and fans focusing on the rematch aspect that made this Super Bowl unique in recent memory. The Patriots and Giants had met just 4 years earlier in one of the most shocking upsets in championship game history, when New York had ended New England's perfect season pursuit with a dramatic 17-14 victory. The narrative of redemption versus repeat championship runs had dominated the 2-week period between the conference championships and the Super Bowl. The Patriots entered as 3-point favorites, despite the Giants' proven ability to perform in big games, a line that reflected New England's superior regular season record and their historically dominant offense. Tom Brady's record-breaking season, which had seen him throw for 5,235 yards and 39 touchdowns, had established the Patriots as the most prolific passing attack in NFL history. The team's depth at skill positions, led by Rob Gronkowski and Wes Welker, gave them multiple ways to attack even the most sophisticated defenses. Brady's pursuit of a 4th Super Bowl championship had been one of the season's most compelling storylines, as the 34-year-old quarterback sought to cement his legacy among the game's greatest players. His 3 previous championships had come early in his career, and a 4th title would validate his continued excellence well into his 30s, while answering critics who questioned whether he could win championships without the dominant defenses of his earlier years. New York possessed several advantages that could trouble New England's high-power defense, particularly their defensive line's ability to generate pressure without sending additional pass rushers. The Giants' front 4 of Jason Pierre-Paul, Justin Tuck, Chris Canty, and Dave Tollefson had been exceptional throughout the playoffs, creating consistent pressure that had disrupted even the most efficient passing attacks. The Giants had proven throughout their playoff run that they could compete with superior teams by playing physical, mistake-free football that maximized their strengths while minimizing their weaknesses. Their championship experience from 4 years earlier had been evident in their poise under pressure, while Eli Manning's continued development as a clutch performer had given them confidence in crucial moments. Manning's transformation from inconsistent regular season performer to playoff hero had been one of the most remarkable individual storylines of the postseason. The game's early stages favored New England, as Brady completed 9 of his first 10 passes while moving the team methodically down the field with the kind of precision passing that had defined their record-setting season. The Patriots' offensive line provided excellent protection, while their receivers were finding openings in the Giants' coverage schemes. However, New York's defense proved resilient when it mattered most, stiffening in the red zone and forcing field goals instead of touchdowns. The Giants' red zone defense had been exceptional throughout the season, and their ability to limit New England to field goals rather than touchdowns kept the game competitive, despite the Patriots' offensive advantages. New York's defensive backs provided tight coverage in confined spaces, while their linebackers showed excellent awareness in picking up underneath routes and slot receivers. New York answered with their own methodical scoring drives, as Manning demonstrated improved pocket presence and decision-making that had been crucial to their playoff success. His connection with receiver Mario Manningham was particularly effective, while running back Ahmed Bradshaw provided balance with his ability to make defenders miss in space. The first half ended with both teams having established their identities and capabilities, setting up a second half that would determine which team could execute their game plan more effectively when the pressure reached its peak. The Patriots held a slim halftime lead, but the Giants had demonstrated their ability to compete with New England's explosive offense. The second half produced the kind of dramatic finish that championship games demand, featuring clutch performances from both quarterbacks and several plays that would be remembered for years to come. both teams made crucial adjustments that created new opportunities while addressing weaknesses that had been exposed in the first half. The fourth quarter began with both teams understanding that a single mistake or exceptional play could determine the championship. The intensity was palpable as each possession took on increased significance, with coaches and players alike feeling the weight of a full season's work hanging in the balance. Manning engineered a masterful drive in the final minutes that showcased all the qualities that had made him such an effective playoff performer throughout his career. His completion of key passes under pressure demonstrated improved pocket presence, while his decision-making in crucial moments showed the kind of football intelligence that championship quarterbacks required. The drive featured several crucial completions, including a 22-yard strike to Manningham that moved the Giants into Patriots territory, and a 17-yard connection to Victor Cruz that put New York in position to take the lead. Manning's ability to find open receivers while facing consistent pressure from New England's pass rush had been exceptional, demonstrating the kind of composure that defined great playoff performances. The decisive moment came with 57 seconds remaining on the game clock, when Manning found Manningham in the corner of the end zone for a 6-yard touchdown that gave New York a 21-17 lead. The throw required perfect placement to avoid the defender's coverage while putting the ball where only Manningham could catch it, demonstrating Manning's continued growth as a precision passer. Manningham's catch was equally impressive, as he demonstrated exceptional concentration and body control to secure the ball while maintaining his footing in the end zone. The touchdown represented the culmination of New York's championship drive and validated their belief that they could compete with any team when playing their best football. The Lucas Oil Stadium crowd, which had been largely neutral throughout the game, erupted as the magnitude of the moment became clear. The Giants had taken the lead in the final minute of the Super Bowl, putting enormous pressure on the Patriots to respond with their own scoring drive while facing a defense that had been exceptional in crucial moments throughout the postseason. New England had one final opportunity to extend their season and capture the championship that had eluded them 4 years earlier. Brady, who had delivered countless clutch drives throughout his Hall of Fame career, took the field with 80 yards to travel and less than a minute remaining on the clock. The stage was set for the kind of dramatic finish that had defined Brady's legacy. But the Giants' defense, which had risen to the occasion throughout their unlikely championship run, came up with one final stop when their team needed it most. Their pass rush generated consistent pressure on Brady, while their secondary provided tight coverage that prevented New England's receivers from creating separation. The Patriots' desperation drive stalled at midfield when Brady's final pass, a deep attempt toward the end zone, fell incomplete as time expired. The Giants had completed one of the most improbable championship runs in NFL history, defeating a Patriots team that many considered superior on paper while capturing their second Super Bowl title in 5 years. The celebration on the field was immediate and emotional, as players and coaches who had been written off throughout the season savored the ultimate achievement in professional football. Manning's performance had validated his status as an elite quarterback, while the team's collective effort had demonstrated the importance of peaking at exactly the right time. For the Patriots, the loss represented a devastating end to what had been one of the greatest regular seasons in franchise history. Brady's record-breaking individual performance and the team's offensive dominance had positioned them as heavy favorites to capture the championship, but their inability to execute in the final moments had left them wondering what might have been. The defeat was particularly painful because it represented a missed opportunity to validate one of the most dominant regular seasons in recent memory. The Patriots had compiled a 13-3 record while setting numerous offensive records, but their inability to finish the job in the Super Bowl would forever taint what should have been remembered as one of the greatest seasons in NFL history. Chapter 15, Championship Legacy. Manning was named Super Bowl MVP after completing 30 of 50 passes for 412 yards and 2 touchdowns. capping one of the most impressive playoff runs in recent memory. His performance under pressure had been exceptional throughout the postseason, featuring clutch throws and excellent decision-making that validated his status as an elite quarterback. The Giants' victory completed one of the most improbable championship runs in NFL history, as they had finished just 9-7 during the regular season while struggling with consistency for most of the campaign. But they had peaked at exactly the right time, playing their best football when the stakes were highest and the margin for error was smallest. For New England, the loss represented a missed opportunity to cap one of the greatest seasons in franchise history with a championship. Brady's record-breaking regular season and the team's dominant performance would be remembered, but the inability to finish the job would forever taint their legacy. The 2011 NFL season had delivered everything that fans could have hoped for, and more. From the uncertainty of the lockout to the drama of the playoffs, it had been a campaign that perfectly captured why professional football remains America's most popular sport. Chapter 16, Historical Significance and Legacy. The statistical accomplishments of the 2011 season extended far beyond the marquee names to include numerous breakthrough performances that redefined what was possible at every position on the field. Cruz's rise from practice squad player to Pro Bowl receiver exemplified the opportunity and unpredictability that made the NFL so compelling. His ability to find soft spots in coverage and make contested catches had been particularly valuable in the Giants' championship run, where his chemistry with Manning had been crucial to their playoff success. His story resonated with fans who appreciated the underdog narrative of an overlooked player seizing his opportunity and maximizing his talents. His partnership with Tom Brady had reached new heights of efficiency and production, with their connection representing one of the most devastating short and intermediate passing combinations in NFL history. The emergence of rookie receivers like A.J. Green and Julio Jones had provided additional storylines that demonstrated the immediate impact that first-year players could make in the modern NFL. Green's 65 catches for 1,057 yards had been exceptional for a rookie, while his chemistry with Andy Dalton had been crucial to Cincinnati's surprising playoff berth. His combination of size, speed, and route running ability had made him an immediate threat at the professional level. His combination of size and speed had created matchup problems for opposing defenses, while his red zone ability had been particularly valuable for an Atlanta team seeking to improve their scoring efficiency. The quarterback position had featured remarkable depth throughout the league, with backup players like Matt Flynn delivering exceptional performances when given opportunities. Flynn's performance had been particularly impressive because it had come with nothing on the line for the Packers, who had already secured home field advantage throughout the playoffs. His ability to operate Aaron Rodgers' offense at such a high level had been remarkable. While his 6 touchdown passes had tied the single-game record and established him as one of the most sought-after backup quarterbacks in the league. The individual achievements were staggering in scope and historical significance, representing levels of excellence that had never been achieved simultaneously in a single season. Rodgers' 45 touchdown passes against just 6 interceptions had represented a level of ball security that had never been achieved at such a high production level. His completion percentage of 68.3% had been equally impressive, demonstrating precision passing that had been essential to Green Bay's record-setting offensive production. The combination of efficiency and volume that Rodgers had achieved would stand as a benchmark for future generations of quarterbacks. Drew Brees' 5,476 passing yards had not simply broken previous records. It had obliterated them by nearly 400 yards while establishing a new standard for single-season passing production. His completion percentage of 71.2% had been equally remarkable, demonstrating accuracy at a volume level that had never been achieved in the modern passing era. Brees' achievement had been particularly impressive, given the shortened preparation time following the lockout. as he had been forced to develop chemistry with new receivers while operating in Sean Payton's complex offensive system. His ability to maintain such a high level of accuracy while attempting over 600 passes had been extraordinary, requiring exceptional arm strength, mental toughness, and physical conditioning. Tom Brady's breaking of Dan Marino's single-season passing record had provided one of the most compelling individual storylines, as the 34-year-old quarterback had demonstrated that age was no barrier to elite performance. His 5,235 yards had required both exceptional performance and remarkable durability, as he had needed to average over 300 yards per game throughout the 16-game season. Brady's achievement had been particularly meaningful given his age and the physical demands of playing quarterback at the professional level. His ability to maintain such a high level of production while leading his team to a 13-3 record had demonstrated the kind of sustained excellence that defined truly great players. The pursuit of Marino's record had captured national attention and provided Brady with additional motivation throughout the season. His combination of size, speed, and reliable hands had created mismatches that traditional defensive schemes could not address. Gronkowski's 17 touchdown receptions had been particularly impressive, breaking the previous record for tight ends by a significant margin while demonstrating his value as a red zone weapon. His ability to line up anywhere on the field had made him a matchup nightmare for opposing defensive coordinators, while his chemistry with Brady had reached levels that seemed almost telepathic. The coaching achievements throughout the season had been equally impressive, with several first-year head coaches making immediate impacts that validated the importance of leadership and system installation. Harbaugh's ability to maximize Alex Smith's potential while installing a physical championship culture had been masterful. His intensity and attention to detail had been immediately apparent, while his background as a former quarterback had been crucial in Smith's development. The defensive improvement under coordinator Vic Fangio had been even more impressive, as the unit had developed into the league's stingiest scoring defense. This transformation represented one of the most significant schematic changes in recent NFL history, as teams increasingly used athletic tight ends to create mismatches against traditional defensive alignments. Jimmy Graham's emergence alongside Gronkowski had validated this trend, as both players had demonstrated the kind of receiving production that had previously been limited to wide receivers. Their success had encouraged other teams to invest more heavily in the position while developing offensive schemes that maximized the unique skill sets that elite tight ends possessed. The impact of the shortened offseason had been one of the season's most interesting subplots, as offensive production had reached historic levels rather than declining as many analysts had predicted. The compressed preparation time had seemingly benefited offensive football by forcing coaches to simplify their systems and focus on maximizing their best players' talents rather than installing overly complex schemes. The combination of rule changes that favored offensive production and the simplified schemes necessitated by limited practice time had created perfect conditions for record-breaking performances. The playoff format had once again proven its worth by creating dramatic upsets and compelling storylines that captivated fans throughout the postseason tournament. The single elimination structure had produced unexpected outcomes that defied regular season performance while demonstrating that any team could get hot at the right time and make a championship run. The Giants' championship run had validated the importance of playoff experience and the ability to perform under pressure when stakes were highest. Their victory over New England in Super Bowl XLVI had been their second championship in 5 years, with both titles coming as significant underdogs against teams that appeared superior on paper. This success had demonstrated that regular season dominance provided no guarantee of postseason advancement. The cultural impact of the season had extended far beyond the games themselves, with several storylines resonating in ways that transcended traditional sports coverage. Tebow's influence had been felt in popular culture as well as sports, with his signature prayer pose being dubbed Tebowing, and becoming a viral internet phenomenon. The cultural divide over his success had reflected broader American divisions about religion, celebrity, and merit, making him one of the most discussed athletes in the country, despite playing for a team that finished with a .500 record. The business implications of the season's success had been significant, with television ratings remaining strong despite lockout concerns and the league's popularity continuing to reach new heights. The resolution of the labor dispute had provided stability for the next decade, while creating new revenue streams that would benefit both owners and players. The new collective bargaining agreement had addressed competitive balance issues while establishing financial frameworks that would guide the league's growth. The league's efforts to expand its global footprint had created new revenue opportunities while introducing American football to audiences who had previously been unfamiliar with the sport. The fantasy football phenomenon had reached new heights during the 2011 season, with the record-breaking offensive performances creating unprecedented scoring and interest among casual fans. The emergence of daily fantasy sports had begun to change how fans engaged with the league, creating new forms of entertainment and competition that extended throughout the week rather than just on game days. The 2011 NFL season represented a watershed moment for professional football, demonstrating the league's resilience and adaptability while showcasing the highest levels of individual and team achievement. The combination of record-breaking performances, compelling storylines, and dramatic playoff moments had created a campaign that would be remembered as one of the greatest in professional sports history. It had been a year that perfectly captured the essence of what made professional football America's favorite sport, while demonstrating why the National Football League remained the most successful professional sports league in the world. The lessons learned from the 2011 season would influence the league's development for years to come, from the labor peace established by the new collective bargaining agreement to the offensive innovations that had been showcased throughout the campaign.